here's your host, Lloyd Shoemaker, with Coach Grasso.
You're watching the Piqua Boys Basketball Coaches Show on the Indian Nation Station YouTube page, brought to you by the Piqua Digital Media. This is Lloyd Shoemaker, your host, along with the star of this program, and that's Coach Steve Grasso to my right. Steve, year 2, right?
Yep.
You ready?
We're ready to go.
I tell you what, I was out at the scrimmage the other night, and I would have to agree with you. I think you're ready to go. Let's talk a little bit about last year, first of all, if we may, and the fact that you lost, I think it was eight seniors off of that team last year. We had some real athletes in there. You had Smeezing and Shrub and Harrison, Cottrell, and I don't want to miss anybody and not mention their names, but you know who I'm talking about. You had some pretty good athletes on that team last year. How do you replace those kind of kids? Casey, especially a Smeezing, Shrub, Harrison, who's been with the program. He came off your bench most of the time last year, but boy, when he came in, he came in.
Well, you know, the biggest thing that we're searching for right now is and it's difficult to replace a guy like Ben Smeezing, who is a great leader, not just on the court playing wise, but off the court, just a great human being, was a great student. You know, and was a great communicator, and it was really easy for kids to rally behind him. Same with Hayden Shrub. You know, he was our point guard and was a verbal leader, and that's a big thing that we're looking right now to improve upon with our team that we have currently, is being more vocal, communicating with each other, and somebody to take control of the game on the court, and either that being in the verbal, telling people where to go, or getting into the right defense, or whatever the case might be. So that we're definitely working to improve those things, but it's tough when you lose guys like that.
Well, Smeezing, especially a 6'1", 6'2" at the most, very physical player on the inside. He dominated both ends of the floor on the boards in just about every game that I watched, and I'm sure that you saw the same thing throughout the year. He just was a force in there. He didn't score a lot of points, but yet he did score a lot of points when you needed him to.
Yep.
He just seemed to be on the same page as you when it came to needing to get points in there.
Yep.
Defensively, he went up against guys that were 4 or 5 inches taller than him, and they didn't get in his way. I mean, he just moved them out of there. And Shrub, when Shrub went to the point guard position, because I know the year before with the graduation of the point guard we had then, and I can't remember who that was, but was that, never mind, I'll think of it. Anyway, when Shrub went out to that point guard position, I thought, wow, that's one of your tallest guys on the floor.
Yep.
And he's out there bringing the ball down to the other players now, but he saw the floor.
Right,
he saw definitely where the opening was, and he got the ball into the right people.
Yep. So, you know, when you lose 2 guys like that are kind of the heart and soul of the team, that get people organized, and inside, outside presence, and just great communicators, you got big shoes to fill. So. And
Harrison, I mentioned him earlier. He came off the bench most of the time for you last year, but he was just an aggravator.
Yep.
When he got on the floor, he would just drive those other guys nuts.
Same with Corey Cottrell, who ended up coming and starting in the second half of the season for us. So just a defensive force, a guy that would take the charges and dive on the loose balls and bring the great intensity. So other things, you know, that are very valuable to basketball teams.
You had tryouts this year.
Yep.
Did you get a lot of kids come out that had not been out for basketball before?
So this year, when last season ended, we've kind of issued a challenge to the returning players, and then also it was known to the students in the school as well that we have our team motto for this year is earned and deserved. So everything that the student athletes were able to achieve individually and and then coming together as a team was going to be things that they were going to have to earn. And with working in the off season and going to our shootouts and summer leagues, and then eventually on into tryouts. So I think the numbers that ended up coming to tryouts were unexpected, I think, because the people who put in the right amount of effort and over the summer and over the fall and going into tryouts, were believed that they were in the right position to make the team. So,
Anybody surprise you out of the tryouts that had not played before for you?
I think we mostly had guys that had been around for the summer, and then no big shockers or surprises because people who are all around and working on their game, that was mostly to be expected.
How many of the football players ended up? I want to know about Karn.
Yeah. So just looking at the list there, Riley Hill's a football player.
Mm-hmm. He didn't play last night.
He did not. He was just cleared. He had an injury in the last regular season game, Troy game, and was just cleared the day prior. So he was in a situation where he's going to now work his way back to health and to the right fitness level and be ready to play. So he'll be able to participate today in practice, and then he'll be able to go.
Well, he was late getting into uniform last year too, wasn't he?
Yeah, it took all the way till towards the end of the season. He actually came back and played a little JV, and then we brought him up to the varsity as a sophomore. McKeegan Kuhn is a football player, and Caden Maxwell was one who joined us this year, who's a football player that has been a pleasant surprise for us, a good teammate, and somebody who's been working really hard. So
6'1", 250 on him.
Not quite as many football players as we've had in the past with this group, but that's something that we kind of talked about. We have people this year who are a little more, I wouldn't say devoted or dedicated, but they're more specific to the basketball skill. They don't, that's something that they, in the fall we've had kids in the past, and that's great. I'm all for people playing multiple sports and things, but when you go right in from open gyms and workouts directly into the season, you're already kind of in the groove, whereas if you're coming off a fall sport, it takes a little bit of time to get your skill together.
Back in the day when I played, smaller school, you played them all.
Yeah.
If you were any kind of an athlete, you played them all.
Yeah.
A school this size, you don't see that as much as you even did maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
That's true.
You see more focus because of all the requirements of getting prepared and the summer, the AAU stuff in basketball, football camps, baseball camps, all that stuff going on all the time. You either participate in one of them or you don't.
Right.
True. So it's bringing the kids in to play the game that's really been making an effort to, like you said, to get prepared to be a part of that team.
Right.
And the thing about Riley Hill, I mean, you talk about 6'4", 275 pounds. When he did get into the varsity games last year, he made some people move around in there.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll be a force for you this year, no question.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting him back to health and being ready to. He'll definitely help us out in there. So.
Well, the other players you got coming back, you got Tucker, you got Trey Richmond. Mick Karn, of course. Mick last night, I think Mick kind of forgot he was playing basketball a few times. He got that linebacker mentality with the ball in his hand and tried to put a square peg in a round hole, and the round hole wasn't open enough, and he got several fouls called on him, but I'm sure that'll clear up. Of course, Riley Hill, and you got Tillman, who also played for you last year.
Yes, yeah.
Who was I didn't have numbers on the kids last night, but who was number 9, the little guard you had started the ball game, point guard?
That is Cameron Darner. Is that
Darner?
I think his jersey was number 9. Yeah, he started off at the point for us. Yeah, he's a sophomore. Yeah. Led the freshman team last year to a great season, 17-3, I believe. They were the GWAC North champs for the freshmen. And,
they only lost 3 games last year.
Yeah,
with the coach
Coach Dolph, right? Exactly. So one thing as you look at our roster there, we have plenty of size, but one thing that we've in the upper grade levels, but one thing that we're lacking a little bit is a lot of depth at the guard position. And Cameron was someone who worked hard at his game all summer, and was able to really kind of show that he was going to be able to play at that level. So he's a guy that's definitely going to help us out here at the varsity level as a sophomore. So
I thought he did a pretty good job. I was surprised to see him out there. I thought maybe it was going to be Tucker.
Yeah.
or even Karn bringing the ball up the floor. And later on, it kind of turned out that way with somebody else on the floor. But I thought he did a pretty good job in that position.
Yeah, that's one thing between him and another player that's is new to the varsity this year is Marcus Jordan. He played as a freshman with Riley Hill in that group, and they had a really good season as well with their freshman team. And last year he didn't have the grades, and we worked hard. He worked hard to get himself eligible, and he's another one that can handle it for us. And it kind of takes some of the pressure off of Corey and Mick and Trey, the seniors, who, of course, will handle the ball in clutch situations. But it's a lot to ask for players to have to be the primary ball handler and also the scorer and guard the other team's best player. So if you have other players who can kind of take some of the pressure off of those guys, it helps a lot. So
yeah, it sure does. And I'll tell you, it didn't seem like there was anybody on the floor except for maybe one time late in the ball game last night in the fourth quarter. Anybody else on the floor could pretty well handle it out there. Maybe not with a lot of pressure, but they certainly knew how to handle the basketball.
Yeah, that's something that we really value, and it's something of the core beliefs of the basketball program here is we want our guys to be able to shoot, pass, and dribble the basic skills of the game, and we spend a lot of time working on it. So. Well,
your threes down pretty good last night.
Yeah, that's what, mentioned shoot, pass, and dribble. Shoot comes first there. We like to see guys that can shoot the ball in, and we spend a lot of time working on that because at the end of the day, if you can put it in the hole, that cures a lot of ills.
Especially in the G-Walk, where you're going to be playing teams who are going to be putting guys on the front of that front line under that basket at 6'7", 6'8", and you're going to have to pull them out of there somehow. You're going to have to hit the threes.
Right. Yeah. So we'll never have the. We've talked about this before. We're never going to have the 6'7", 6'8" here at Piqua, but what we can have is some guys who can make those big guys move around and challenge them on other parts of the floor where it makes it difficult.
Well, it's interesting you say that because when I came out to one of your practices, and I wanted to talk to you about a couple things you do there, I noticed some tall, lanky kids. Was that the JV team or the freshman team?
Yeah, we practice with our JV team.
Okay, yeah. I saw some tall, lanky kids. They look like almost 6'5".
Yeah, we have a few that are 6'3", 6'4". Between both teams, I mean, we have decent general size. We just don't have the big, tall, extra tall guys. But we have some decent size on both teams. So, and again, the freshman team last year was really solid, and it's majority of those guys on the JV team this year. So, I think you'll expect to see some success from our JV team this year as well.
Well, I talked to Coach Dolph on his show, and we were talking about the size of his team also. The girls, he's got 3 girls in there, I think 5'10", and 2 at 5'11", something like that. And you go up into Shelby County, and those are guards on most of those teams up there. And so he might have said, you need to get some candy in your car and drive up there and do some recruiting, get some of those big girls down here. You may have to do the same thing with the Shelby County boys. I know. I think the junior high had a scrimmage game up at Fort Laramie last night, and the size of the Fort Laramie team compared to ours is what you would expect. A lot of tall kids up there.
Yeah.
A lot of tall kids up there.
Yep.
What else did you come away in the scrimmage with Botkins? How did you feel about your rebounding on both ends?
Our rebounding was below where it needs to be, especially giving up offensive rebounds. It's something that just again, when you lose a guy like Ben that could just kind of dominate and control the paint, you're naturally going to be searching for people to come in there and put some weight on other player on the defensive team and hold them off. And so that's something that we're continuing to work on with our big guys. And like I said, hopefully getting Riley back make a difference in there.
No, I'm sure it will.
So.
In your practices, I want to ask you about this. You do a lot of 3-on-3. Is there a reason why you do 3-on-3 instead of 5-on-5?
Well, it's just a segment of the practice. We do 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, all the way up to 5-on-5. And again, the big emphasis with our basketball program in general is we really value skill of the players. So I think at situation there, 1-on-1 all the way up to 5-on-5, you get to learn a different element of the game. If you're playing 1-on-1, you know it's you and the other guy, and you got to get them to the rim. If it's 2-on-2, you're in a situation in some of our offensive scenarios where you have to pick and roll or pick and pop, make a decision with your guys. And 3-on-3 is a natural game where there's one guy with the ball and the other two have to make decisions. Are we going to screen? Are we going to space out? So, I really like to give our practices are really geared toward the players having to learn how to play the game and let it come to them. So,
do you identify the three who play together, or do they just kind of pick?
It depends. I'll let them select sometimes, and sometimes we'll switch them up and challenge them a little bit. So
you get out there and run with them, don't you?
Yeah, I
you
try.
like to play basketball.
Yeah,
you don't just coach it. You like to play it.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that if to be able to be a part of the practice from time to time is I can really get a feel for what's going on the court. So I can, and also then it's another way to coach and from on the floor. So it's kind of set examples of this is the expectations here of on this play, or this is the way that we're going to play defense here, and to set example of what needs to happen verbally on the court. So, but yeah, as long as I can get up and down there, and the old ankles and back will stay in where they're supposed to be, I'll try to keep running with them.
Well, you sure look like you're holding your own out there with them when you're playing, and they don't give you any room either.
No, nobody wants to
guys.
get beat by their coach. That's for sure.
That's right. Let's talk a little bit about the athletes versus basketball players.
Okay.
Last year we talked about the fact that you had a bunch of athletes playing basketball. You made a comment to me at that practice, kind of went over and whispered in my ear and said, this year it's basketball players. What do you mean by that?
So the biggest thing is I think the guys that we have currently now have spent a few years in the program, and like I said, we spend a lot of time working on specific ball handling skills and shooting skills and passing skills and things of that nature. And the team that I coached last year, great athletes, and several of them are playing other sports in college at this point. Ben has walked on to Ohio State football. Hayden plays for Malone University, wide receiver. Corey Cottrell plays baseball at Edison. So those guys were just naturally coming in athletes that could kind of fill into any spot. And as mentioned, these not all of them, but a good majority of the varsity that we have right now are guys that have spent time specifically, working on their basketball skills, and so it's a little bit of an advantage for them where they spend a little more time working specifically on their basketball game. And sometimes you have to do that when you're not quite as good of an athlete, but you can make up for it with your skill or with your basketball IQ. So it's been something that, I think you see on the floor. I think we have a few more players that can make a move with the ball and get their attack the rim or be in the right spots. Little things like that kind of go along with it.
And I think also, being a basketball player, you identify those situations where you can either go or give up the ball a split second quicker than an athlete who has to see it, process it, and do it. The basketball player anticipates it, sees it, and does it. I think would be a good way to.
Absolutely, anticipation.
But I thought last night in that scrimmage against Botkins, and Botkins had a couple of kids that were a little bit taller than you guys, and they did beat you on the rim a few times, but I thought your guys did a great job of taking it to the hoop and then feeding it off to somebody who had been abandoned by the defensive player.
Yeah.
And just got an easy layup out of it.
Yeah.
And Trey hit some threes from outside.
Yeah, he grew quite a bit and took at least 2 to 3 inches this year over the course from end of last basketball season to now, and took the weight room very seriously.
Yeah, you can tell in his arms and stuff.
Yeah, and worked on his game. So he's really been blossoming this year, and I think he's primed for a big senior season. This summer when we went to some of the shootouts, he's getting attention from some college coaches that's pretty impressive for a guy who played just spot minutes on the varsity as a junior.
Yeah.
So,
Well, he's certainly got some ability, and of course,
yeah, they like
Tucker,
to see those inside-outside players.
Yeah,
that's
and
for sure.
Tucker, the shooter and driver and handler of the ball.
Yeah, he's 13-point-a-game guy from last year, and I'm sure he'll get a lot of pressure, a lot of focus from the teams we're playing to try to stop him, and so he's put in a lot of hard work and effort, too, to expand his game.
Well, last year, Coach, you ended up 10-13 on the season, your first year out there, coming off a season of 8-15. I went back and I was looking to see where we were the years before. 14, 15, and 16, we had 12, 12, and 14 wins. You did 10 in your first year. 14, 15, 16, there were some pretty good basketball players on there. One named Bachman for sure.
Yeah.
It kind of helped. There was a kid who ended up being a very good football player, but a great basketball player. And he's up at Ohio Northern now, I understand, playing basketball for them. Prior to that, 13-7 wins. 2012, I think it was 4. The team was 4-17 prior to that. But we had some leadership changes there year after year, and then Butler came in and kind of settled things down a little bit. And he decided to go to the other side, the dark side, administration, and get out of coaching. But did a good job of preparing your boys for you coming in and then you taking over from there. What do you realistically expect out of this team as far as wins this year?
The biggest thing that I look forward to with this team is just if we can compete at the level that we did last year, the wins will come. So this senior class, if you look at their years coming up, was not very successful in the middle school ranks and freshman team ranks. So I think last year, them being part of kind of a winning culture, they learned how to win games because they were always good enough to be close, but they weren't able to finish them off. I think even when they were sophomores, their JV team really struggled and maybe only had 2 or 3 wins. But then some of them became players on the varsity last year. And we learned how to win some close games. I think everybody did last year a little bit because at the beginning of the season, we had some close losses that turned into wins in the second half of the season. So my goal would be to meet or exceed that record from last year. I think with the team would be a realistic expectation. We start off with as brutal a schedule as anybody could get. Butler and Miamisburg right off the bat on the first 2 nights. They're at home, but those were the 3 and 4 seeds in the Dayton sectional in Division I. Both were 18-4 last year, and those are our first 2 games right off the bat. And then right after that, we play the home openers, I believe, for Tip and Sydney.
Correct.
So
speaking of Sydney,
on Friday nights.
Speaking of Sydney, he's back.
Yep. So the point guard from Sydney who went away to get a little bit more exposure, got the exposure he needed and came back. So we have a solid D1 point guard in the conference here, and it's a great challenge.
Yeah, I guess he's committed to Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech, yeah. That's what
well, it certainly reached his goal by going away for a part of a year. But you're right. You start off Butler, Miamisburg, and then you go to Tip and Sydney. And then Greenville, that's never a real easy game.
And then the following one is at Troy. So that'll be the Christmas, the last day before Christmas break type game, and so that's always an emotional one. So yeah, it's a tough go right off the bat, but that's what we signed up for.
Yeah, I was walking out last night with another fan who was leaving at the same time, and he said, "Well, what do you think?" And I just had to smile and look at him, and I said, "I think we're going to be okay." I really do, because what I saw in that scrimmage was just team play, team basketball players playing together and anticipating and shooting well and passing well. Could have done better rebounding. I agree with you on that. But it didn't seem to make any difference which 5 was on the floor for Piqua last night in that game. They just seemed to work well together as basketball players.
That's our goal. hard together. So.
Anything, any new rules this year?
Rule-wise, actually, there was not any changes at all, other than the ball is allowed to go in the backcourt, but it's not really a big change. So.
What do you mean it's allowed to go into the backcourt?
So it's when the ball's thrown in from half court, it can go into the backcourt, and I believe it's from anywhere, but I'm not even sure if it's that big of a change. So you can throw, and if you throw from out of bounds underneath, you can throw it all the way back. There's something else that goes along with it, and it was such a subtle change that I don't even think it's going to affect the game in any way.
Okay.
But there is something that has to do with backcourt, or the lack thereof of a violation, and it was something that rarely happens in games.
Okay.
So
well, let's hope it doesn't happen.
Right, yeah. Well, I'll make sure I go back and review what it was again, but yeah, it's something minor.
All right, you lost Coach Dolph to the girls team as the head coach now.
Yep.
Who's taking over the freshman?
We have a coach named Coach Derek White, who has coached the local AAU team, and then also coached for a few years in the West Carrollton program, and really excited to have him on board. He actually coached a few of the boys this summer, and the parents were very pleased and impressed with him, and they thought he'd be a good addition. It also helps when he coaches, those parents are also the athletic director of the high school, so he was impressed, and so that it just kind of worked out. I interviewed him, and he was excited to come on board with us. So.
And you've got a new assistant on the varsity.
I do. So we kind of traded the girls program. Coach Brian Gillespie has joined us this year. Really excited to have him around. He's a smart basketball guy and an enthusiastic and energetic guy, and also gives kind of me a chance to focus on working specifically with the guards. And he was a big man and growing up in high school, so he can kind of work specifically with the big, so we can split up the varsity team and work on our skills that way. So.
All right. Well, Coach, listen, appreciate your time. I know you're getting ready to head home now for the Thanksgiving holidays with your family, and we want to thank you for doing that. And your first ball game is on November 30th here at Piqua High School against Butler, and then Saturday night you come right back on the 1st of December against Miamisburg. And we want to encourage the fans to come out and watch these young guys play. I'm telling you, you're going to be impressed and entertained throughout the entire season. Coach, anything else you want to end up with?
We'd love to have a full house for those games, and win or lose, support us. Like I said, we're playing two really good teams right off the bat, but we're excited about the opportunity. So.
All right. We want to thank you for watching. And you're watching this live from Piqua Boys Basketball Coaches Show on the air on the Indian Nation station on the YouTube page, brought to you by the Piqua Digital Media. I'm Lloyd Shoemaker, your host. Coach Grazier, thank you for being with us again. We'll see you next time.